Hello, I'm so excited to bring you this topic today. It is something that will change your life. I know it has changed mine, and I don't mean that as an overstatement. I mean that as something that truly has been a tool in my life to help me achieve my goals and stop doing the thing that is keeping me back and to really start focusing on what will move me forward. So, this is a special excerpt from my Fat to Fuel program. If you don't know, I run a program with my husband, Dr. John Peterson, called Fat to Fuel. And it's all about our mental and physical health and how that works together to create our optimal health. And we can't really separate the two. This message that I'm going to share with you today is right out of that program, and it will show you what I'm talking about, how we really have to focus on our mind when we're focusing on our health. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, I am so excited to share with you this message today. This has been something that will change your life like it has changed mine. When we're focusing on weight loss or to stop overeating, when we learn that tool, it can really apply to so many parts of our life. I'm going to tell you today why you are overeating and what to do about it. So, have you ever wondered why you keep overeating? Or it could be why you eat something that was just not on your diet plan, that you hadn't intentionally tried to eat that day. Or you can combine those two, why you're overeating something not on your diet plan. Okay, I'll give you an example. Maybe you are doing really well at not eating sugar, but then you're up against a deadline at work and you're feeling a lot of stress, and your daughter is making your favorite cheesecake brownies. You can smell them from the other room, and you decide the solution to all your stress will be those cheesecake brownies. And it will just take the edge off a little bit, making the pain that you're going through at that moment with the deadline and the stress, it'll make it a little less painful. Maybe you've done this when you've felt angry or sad or lonely or bored or remorseful. There's so many reasons that we do this. And maybe it's not always cheesecake brownies. Maybe for you, it's another type of food, like fries and a milkshake or a bucket of ice cream. Maybe it's a drink, whether that's like a sugary soda drink or a glass of wine. Maybe it's a drug. For I know for a lot of us, social media is a big thing, or Netflix. We just feel like we need something to take that painful feeling away. Okay, so this is what I call a buffer. A buffer is when we're using something external to change the emotion that we have internally. So it helps us hide from reality for a moment. It helps us to procrastinate, whether it's a task that we don't want to do or a feeling that we don't want to have. It procrastinates that for us. And it's what you do to avoid feeling the pain. Okay, so our primitive brain, I know I've talked about this before. We want to do three things: seek pleasure, avoid pain, and save energy. And our primitive brain, it's our caveman instincts, is what has kept us safe for generations. Okay, so it's not that anything has gone wrong with our brain, and you're not a special unicorn that only has these problems. It's the human experience that we all have this primitive brain that wants to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and save energy. So we're constantly being bombarded with brilliant ways to seek pleasure. So when your feelings come up and you think you can't handle it, you'll want to do one of these three things. And the world is very good at showing us ways to seek pleasure and avoid pain and save energy. Okay, just turn on any advertisement and that's what they want you to do. So let's say, I'm going to give you a few examples here. So let's say I have to do my taxes, and I think it's going to be much easier to do that painful thing if I have a 44-ounce cup of Mountain Dew in front of me. Okay. Or let's say my mom was diagnosed with cancer and I'm scared and I'm angry. I had a client go through this exact thing. So what would you do? Well, when I'm scared and angry, I just want to get rid of that feeling. So I go watch Netflix for 3 hours or more so I don't have to feel those feelings because they're so painful. Okay. Another example, my kids are driving me crazy today. So I'm going to ignore them by going on social media and checking out of reality for a little bit. That happens to us parents a lot because it's so easy. It's right there. It's so accessible to avoid that pain and seek pleasure. Okay, I'm feeling like a failure because I didn't stick to my new diet. So I'm going to just eat a bucket of ice cream and make that pain go away. That sounds logical at the time because it's giving us that temporary pleasure and we're avoiding the pain. Let's think one more. This is especially common with teenagers, but I think this applies to adults too. The feeling of being left out or insecure. So they think their clothes aren't in style or they're not the same as other people. And so they want to go shopping so that they don't have that feeling. They don't feel the rejection or the loneliness that they're feeling at that time. And they think shopping is the answer. Buying more things is the answer. So this has been successful for many years for the diet companies. It's been successful for the food corporations, and it's been very successful for the fashion industry. They are very good. They're very good at taking advantage of our primitive brain that's seeking concentrated pleasure, constantly concentrated. Think about that word concentrated, okay? When I think about the word concentrated, the first memory that comes to mind when I heard the word concentrate was apple juice. My mom used to buy I think they still make them, but they're the cans of apple juice concentrate. And then we would dump it in a pitcher. This was like my childhood. Dump it in a pitcher and mix it with a gallon of water, and then it would make what we called apple juice. Is that still out there? I feel like it's maybe still a thing, but we had a freezer just lined with these juice from concentrates. And so we dilute it with water, right? But it's so much better to eat that concentrate with a fork. Like it's icy and slushy and sugary and super delicious. So think about that as like concentrated pleasure and where it's come from the actual apple, the actual like goodness and nutrients and the fiber richness of an apple, that it's been reduced to this apple juice from concentrate. And think about how many sugars are in an apple versus what they've packed into that one can. Okay, so I want you to think about that as we're talking about concentrated pleasure. We get a little boost of dopamine. This is why we do it. We get a little boost of dopamine. Dopamine feels really good. It's one of our happy hormones. And then our brain decides that was really good and that was really important to have that boost of dopamine. So we continue to seek that pleasure. Our primitive brain thinks it's very important for our survival to have that concentrated pleasure because we got that little boost of dopamine and it felt really good. Then what's the next thing? The cycle continues. So the more money we spend, the more we think spending is the answer. So we keep spending. The more we eat, the more we think eating is the answer. So we keep eating and the cycle continues. Then what happens is we feel like the whole purpose of life is to have pleasure all the time and not ever have those negative emotions, because that is the saving energy and the avoiding pain part of our primitive brain. We don't want the negative emotions, okay? And as soon as we get them, we want them to go away. So now we don't experience concentrated pleasure because of negative emotions. We do it even for the good ones that we want too. Even if we're feeling a good emotion, we still go to the concentrated pleasure. Let's think about when this has happened in your life. I want you to think about last time you celebrated something, a milestone, an anniversary, a birthday, or coworker's retirement party. Okay, we're so happy and we're so filled with excitement and joy that what do? We eat cake. or we go drink, or we eat donuts. I'm mentioning donuts again because they are my least favorite food. They are so concentrated. It's such a concentrated pleasure to have a donut. Okay, so, or think about this. We're feeling so full of the Christmas spirit. We're so excited that we shop and spend and shop and spend. And even if it's over a budget or we have to put it on credit, we're feeling so excited that we're doing something that's bringing us more pain ultimately, but giving us temporary concentrated pleasure. So most companies out there, I think maybe all the companies out there will tell you that you can buy happiness. When you buy our product, it doesn't matter what they're selling, but when you buy our product, ultimately you will have some version of happiness. And it works because guess what? Life is hard. But also know this, buffering just makes it harder. I'll explain. We buffer to avoid pain, but buffering causes us pain. It causes us more pain than that temporary relief or that concentrated pleasure is actually worth. So think about overeating. Overeating causes you what? You're bloated, you're sick, you're overweight. Sometimes you feel guilt or shame or another painful emotion because of the overeating. Let's think about, so this is an overeating program or the Fat to Fuel program is a lot of times about overeating or eating things that aren't good for our body. But when I'm saying like all roads lead to Rome, like once you learn this tool about buffering, you will see where it comes up in other parts of your life. So it's super important to learn this when we're talking about overeating because let's say you stop overeating, but you start overspending or you start binging Netflix because you need something to cope with those painful emotions that you're not using food to buffer with anymore. So let's think about overspending. That has natural consequences as well. So natural consequence of overspending is you might not have money or you maybe have to work harder so you can afford those things that you want. And when you work harder, you have more stress and you have more things in your life, more clutter that you have to organize, and it becomes an organizing nightmare. You have less balance in your life, all from overspending, all because we thought overspending was the answer to that painful emotion we had, but really it's causing us more long-term pain. Let's think about the mom or dad binging on Netflix to avoid family situations or kids that are being annoying. The more they spend disconnecting from their family and from reality and even from themselves, the worse the problem becomes. It does not get better. The problem doesn't go away just because they checked out. The problem gets worse. There's more disconnection happening, not the solution, which would be connection, which would be learning patience, which would be communication. Okay, let's think about over drinking. Over drinking has natural consequences of the hangover, of migraines, but social consequences even. You have embarrassing moments when you're drinking. And not to even mention, drinking just leads to like more spending and more extra calories, empty calories that aren't filling you up, that aren't consistent with your health. So when you learn to give up your buffers, you will still feel the pain, which is why so many people don't want to give them up. But you'll deal with your pain in a healthier way, a way that aligns more with your goals and beliefs. Next week, we're going to talk about this more. We're going to talk about what to do with those feelings when they come up, with those urges, with those desires we have to buffer. This week, I just want you to notice what happens when you have those feelings. Notice what your buffers are. They're not always food related. They could be, like I mentioned, so many other things. But if you have not done this work to really look at your buffers and see what they are and work hard to change them, I guarantee you have them. I want you to imagine your life without your buffers. Does that scare you? Do you feel withdrawal just thinking about it? Like if you didn't have that thing, what would your life be? Some people get anxious just thinking about not having that buffer in their life. So at this point, you've gone through keto boot camp, and by now you've experienced the keto flu, and I'm sure you've experienced many cravings for carbs. And we've talked about your why. Why will you keep going? What is your why? Remember your why. I want you to think about being on the other side of this program, not reaching for your buffers. When you have those feelings come up, to not reach for Netflix, to not scroll social media, to not reach for the chocolate or the ice cream or the 44-ouncer or the coffee or the wine or whatever it is, not reaching for that. What will that look like for you? You will experience life. You will get connected with yourself again. Ask yourself this: what are you capable of when you stop overeating, overspending, over consuming? When you learn to stop buffering, your world will be opened up to you in a whole new way, and you will live this more expansive life because you will learn to feel your feelings without needing a buffer. And you'll be able to show up in a bigger way. Think about it: at work, at school, at church, a social event, even at home. Even if it's just yourself, you will know that whatever feeling comes up, you're going to be able to handle it on your own without the buffer. Life has been and always will be a balance of opposites. I teach my clients this all the time. Just look at the history of the world. We see dark and light. We see man and woman, good and evil, sweet, salty, north, south. I mean, we have opposites all around us. So we are meant to experience those opposites as well. Pain and pleasure. We're meant to experience both of them in a 50-50 balance. When you learn to embrace the negative with the positive as part of our journey here on earth, we don't have to fight the pain. We can accept the pain. We don't have to buffer the pain, okay? What's left? What's left if you don't fight it, if you don't buffer it? I mean, what do you do with pain when you have it? We can allow it. We're going to talk more about allowing that next week in the program and what that looks like. Okay, I want to give you an example right here. I'm a mom, as you know. I have 4 kids ranging from 8 years old to 16. And as you can imagine, and if you've been in this situation, the car that the household uses gets messy, okay? It gets full of garbage. It gets sand from the playground, or if we've gone to the beach or camping, as there's dirt, there's dog hair when the dog comes in the car with us. We have schoolwork and a tennis racket and an old lunchbox and shoes and dirty socks. And you imagine, you know what I'm talking about. It gets painfully messy in the car sometimes. So what are the choices when the car is that painfully messy? I could just not drive the car. And if I didn't drive the car, if I just avoided it, and I could say, oh, the mess went away. I don't have to see it. It's not there. The mess is not a problem because I'm not looking at it, because I'm not driving my car. But is the problem gone? Did the problem go away because I decided to avoid my car? No. Until I decide to deal with the problem, to actually look at it and clean it out and take care of it, it's still going to be there. But cleaning the car is work. And remember, our primitive brain does not like work. Our primitive brain likes to save energy. It likes to avoid pain, and work is pain. Cleaning the car is work because it's hot outside and I don't want to, and I'd rather do other things and all the excuses. I love the feeling of a freshly cleaned car where there's no garbage and there's no hair and there's no sticky spots. That is the reward you give yourself after the hard work. So I want you to think about this. And I hope by now you realize the car is an analogy for our lives. The sticky spots are our thoughts and our feelings and our habits, and we work through them. It's all those painful things that we have to deal with, all those emotions that we don't like. When we work through them instead of avoiding them, instead of buffering them, it feels so much better. But you might think, well, what about that dopamine? How am I going to get my dopamine if I don't have my buffer? We need that dopamine hit to have our happiness. First of all, I will be sharing later how to get happy hormones, how to access our happy hormones in healthy ways. That's super important to understand, that a buffer is never a ultimately happy or healthy way to release healthy and happy hormones in your body. So, how do you get that dopamine that you desperately need and your body thinks is so important for survival from that concentrated pleasure? How do you get it? We have natural pleasure. Okay, and guess what? This natural pleasure is coming from not giving in to our primitive brain. The natural pleasure is coming by actually working through our pain and coming out better on the other side, better and stronger because of the lessons that we've learned, because of what we've been through. And the best news is your brain will release over 200% more dopamine to your body than that tiny little dopamine hit from your buffer. 200%. Some studies have shown 250% more dopamine releasing to our bodies. Isn't that incredible? Meaning, while you clean the car, okay, going back to the car analogy, it will be challenging. There will be some suffering. There will be some pain. But afterwards, the reward of having the clean and beautiful car will be so much more satisfying than avoiding the car. And again, the car is an analogy for our life and our pains coming from our thoughts and our feelings and our habits and the things that we don't like doing, that we keep doing them anyway. So this week in the program, I want you to just notice your buffers. Do the workbook pages. And next week, we're going to be talking about those urges that we feel that we need to buffer, where they come from, which is super important. They always come from our thoughts. So we're going to be talking a lot about our thoughts and what to do when we have those urges. So I will see you then, and have a great week. Bye-bye. I hope you found value in what you heard today. If so, please follow us and go give us that 5-star rating. It really helps us reach more people that need to hear this message. Also, if you're ready to make changes to your health and well-being, go check out our Fat to Fuel program. Our coaching program empowers you to make healthy changes to your life one step at a time. Go to fattofuel.com or click the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there.